well do you know our Lieutenant Governor, Will Ainsworth? Well, you should stick around and find out because he has a lot to say about Alabama. He's bullish on our state, and he's an interesting conversation. So stick around.
We're literally debating that it's bad that people get to say what they think.
Can you imagine? I'm reading Psalm 144, and it says, He trains my hands for war.
We are on the brink of total destruction of America as we know it.
Let your rebel flag fly.
Welcome into this week's edition of Alabama Unfiltered. I am one of your hosts, Scott Beeson. Amy Beth Shaver is with me. Allison Sinclair is as well. Don't forget to go to wherever you download your podcast. Give us a thumbs up, like us, and remember that we are powered by 1819 News. You can go check them out at 1819news.com. Sign up for the Daily Detail.
Yes.
And the newsletter where you can find out all the things that are going on in Alabama. Not just politics, but sports and news in general. But how are you ladies?
Good.
Well done.
You
You
made
made
it.
it.
I made it through on the
That was
third
like
try.
our fourth through it, Scott.
That is not you. I usually do well the first time.
I mean, it's been a whole
but
year,
I've been
and that was the
stuttering
only
and
time.
I don't have coffee or something.
You know
You
what?
need a
I
Mountain
drank
Dew.
a Dr.
Oh, wait,
Pepper.
Did you? You're ready?
Zero.
With Diet
I'm
Mountain.
ready.
What is in a zero? It's just
Nothing.
like embalming
no calories.
fluid.
But yes,
no
embalming
calories?
fluid, and aren't you glad for it?
Well, I mean, y'all look good when you're dead. I mean, like a week later, they won't have to do anything to y'all because y'all will be like,
Thank you so much.
Make
perfect.
it. It'd be perfect.
All the chemicals
Yeah,
will be awesome.
absolutely.
It'll be awesome.
Hey, should
Yeah.
we introduce our guest?
We have a
who is
very
like-
special
I mean,
guest
he's
today.
probably wondering if he even wants to stay on the
right now
stay
he's
on the
regretting
program.
this. He's like,
lock the
what am
doors.
I doing?
Lock the doors. Our guest is who? Friend of mine for a number of years. Friend of everybody in the state of Alabama, I would say. Will Ainsworth, Lieutenant Governor of the state, is with us. Will, how are you? And thanks for being with us.
Yeah, great to be with y'all. So yeah, thanks for the invite. Good to be here.
Absolutely.
And,
He's forcing that one out.
no, it's the truth. Yeah, no,
Good to
it's
be
not.
with
No,
y'all.
it is for sure. So no, appreciate the invite. Appreciate what y'all stand for, and look forward to talking about issues in the state today.
Yeah,
It'll be great.
absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. I really do. And I guess Allison had to be here as well. But
I mean, I'm here every week.
it
Sorry.
does seem like you're here
Stinks.
more than every week. It's like,
Well,
I feel like I have
Abs,
to
you
see
were
you.
gone last week. Did
I
you
was
have a
gone.
good trip?
We had a great trip.
And when you're gone, Abs, I miss you.
Thank you so much.
It's like when your parents made you hang out with your little sister and you get stuck together. That's how Scott felt last week.
It
having
was our
to sit with you on
25th
the bus.
anniversary
Yeah.
in May.
Dang it.
And Chris planned a trip for us, and we went to the Abacos for.
Did you swim with the pigs?
We didn't. But
Wait, isn't that where you do that?
it is,
or is
yeah,
that not?
it
Swimming
is
with
where you
the
swim with the
pigs?
pigs. However,
It's
I thought that was in
kinda-
Montgomery.
we had sea turtles, literal giant sea turtles near us in this little slough behind where we stayed. And the people, this is crazy. This is how it all ties in because you'll know these people. They are the Heathcocks from Talladega, all right? And they years ago invested in homes in Abaco. And so we met and had dinner with them, but they had a machine business in Talladega, Alabama, and then ended up just moving to Nashville. But they fell in love with that area, and they were like, "We're going to have rental property here."
They
and so
like
they
settled
Really?
it?
So they're in their 70s. He's in his 70s now.
Okay.
But we connected with them
So
through another
where
Alabama
is the
family.
Abacos?
It's an
Where
out
are the
island of
Abacos?
the Bahamas. We
Okay.
were
It's a suburb
near
of the
Grand
Bahamas.
It was a suburb of the Bahamas.
Okay. All
But
right.
it has
See, that
sea
makes so much
turtles and swimming pigs.
It's like living in Shelby County as
Swimming
opposed to
pigs.
Birmingham City.
Yeah. So it was pretty neat.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that they're from Talladega
Yes.
because did anybody go? I went to Talladega to the race the first time
This weekend?
this weekend,
Really?
which is
Okay. Awesome.
insane. I feel like my example was like, it's like you tell people that, and that's like living in Paris and saying, I've never seen the Eiffel Tower. I mean,
Yes.
I felt kind of like a loser, but y'all, I had a blast.
So
Did
It
you
was
really?
so much fun.
We drove past it on the way back from
That
the
doesn't
Atlanta
count.
airport.
That
and I
doesn't
was
count.
like, there are a lot of cars and campers and things.
And you're like, oh, it's
Were you
And
Yeah.
Talladega.
like the grand marshal of the whole deal.
No, I wasn't there. I went to the race before and
Okay.
got to do the whole test drive. And
Oh,
the,
did you?
The boys
On the
went.
t-
We had a blast.
Oh, that
and
would
actually
be
that's
awesome.
when Fox News was there, and I was on Fox News that morning.
Oh, it was
and-
raining that day.
Yeah, I think so. At some
A little
point in
bit,
time,
yeah.
but it was they were out in full force at
Yeah.
6 a.m, barbecuing, drinking all kind of things, having fun,
Milk,
having
cereal.
so-
Only milk and orange
yeah.
juice.
But it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it
It's
was
a great
oh,
event. There's
yeah.
no doubt. So you
But
waited
you
till
loved it?
You waited till it went woke.
Well,
and then you went.
I will say it's in. Well, so CJ Laughlin, and it actually was the Xfinity race that was on Saturday. So my husband's. Oh, and this is where the story ties in. I have to tell you about
Okay.
the super cool thing that I did with your mom, which is bizarre. Anyway, we're going to tie all this back together. So my husband's company sponsored, they had their logo on a car with CJ McLaughlin.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And so we got to go and see the car and go on the racetrack and sit in the pits, like literally above where they, zzz, 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 you know,
oh,
and those
yeah.
little
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
And it
Great
was
sound
fun
effects.
because
What was it again? Which one was it? Oh, okay. Yeah.
literally when they get out there, the pits crew, it's funny because like in between, there's nothing to do unless you're pitting. And so they're like hiding behind the wall. They're like on Instagram. And then, you know, stage 1 is about to end and they all get up and start stretching. Have y'all ever noticed that?
No.
They literally go, like, you can see the one guy who has to do the zzz.
Yeah.
You see him go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like in
No
really?
way.
Yeah.
Look, all I've ever seen is Talladega Nights,
funny.
so I don't know anything about this.
But it was so cool because then I guess the geeky engineer comes out and we started timing it, like how long the leaders were in front. And I don't know. I've never thought it would be interesting. It was really like, I want to go back.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Y'all need to-
April, we should take a field trip. We
You know
should take
what?
a field trip.
Hi. If anyone is in charge and you could give us tickets, that would be
That
great.
would help tremendously, wouldn't
Well,
it? Anyway,
what
but
was
that'd be
it Trump
interesting.
said at his
Amy
rally?
Beth, Amy Beth, you need to go. So, I mean, you would like the
I've gotta
NASCAR
go.
race.
Amy
It
Beth
needs
might
to
be a little
on
bit
your
more
bucket
like me,
list,
though.
so.
I'm like, wow, this is a spectacle. It's great. It's awesome. It looks awesome. 18 laps in, I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, we stayed till the very end.
It's like tennis
you
where they're
really?
only
Yeah.
serving. It's like
Real-
one
okay,
person.
look, if
That-
you
that's
get
just
me around food, if you
Yeah.
can explain to me, like that kind of thing would be something that I would notice. Like, how long does it take? Like, why are they stretching? But then the problem is, I'd want to go and ask them questions, and then I
talk
would
to
make them bad at their job, and then they would get
No,
fired.
no.
'Cause they're over there talking to
just
you while the
let's
car's
play
parking.
Ricky
I'll be there in a
Bobby
minute.
and put me on the top, like in a folding lawn chair out where the
Right.
people don't actually pay for their tickets. Let me go there, and just kind of do
I
it
think
that
once
way.
it's like baseball, and your boys play baseball. It's like baseball was so boring to me until you have a child that's playing, and then you kind of get into
Yeah,
the
okay.
game, and
Well,
now
there-
you're
I
like,
There,
I
there
can get
is
with
a
that.
lot. That's
Anyway.
right. There's a lot to it. But
I didn't
we
mean
quit
to
playing
spend this
baseball
much
because
time
we
on
were
that.
like,
But you
oh
know
my
what? I
gosh.
was very
shocked.
impressed with how many people were there because we were literally trying to figure out what race was this weekend because we're like, oh my gosh, there's all
Amy
these
Beth,
cars.
that's embarrassing.
But I mean,
Well, it was because
Man,
was
she had
it?
been at the
I was in the Bahamas.
Bacaraccas or whatever it was.
Not
You know,
there.
the suburb.
I was gone,
I know. I don't,
and
I, don't
I was
blame you
like,
for
wait a
missing
minute,
it.
that's this weekend. I thought it was in April, and then I
And
was
you
like,
said, I'm glad the race is not over, or
Got
we'd
it.
be
I'm
dead
glad the
stop
race
at the
is not
interstate.
over.
You know,
There
Did
was
you
lots
you
of
grew up in
merriment going
Alabama?
oh yeah.
Your family is all from
Yeah, my dad's from down here. Went to Huffman. My mom went to
Okay.
Hoover, and then I grew up in
Oh.
Boaz, and so
Did you grow up going to Talladega?
didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
yeah, I didn't.
you
go
So
got-
till I
when your
an
mom
adult.
was at Hoover, let's see, that would have
it
been.
would have been Barry.
Yeah, I was about to say it would be
Yeah,
Barry High
so
School.
she graduated 74 from
Okay.
Hoover, and then graduated Auburn, or actually Montevallis 78. My dad graduated from Auburn in 78. So
Very good. Well, give us the
Yeah.
whole story. I mean, we've been talking about Talladega.
Yeah, I
thanks-
didn't mean to
thanks
go.
to
Oh, no, you're
Allison.
good.
I mean,
So Boaz High School, the place
Yeah.
of the original pepper. What was it? West Peppermill, whatever.
Oh,
Remember
yeah,
the
the outlets.
outlets?
where the
Yeah.
outlets
Y'all
were
had the
there.
outlets. Y'all got the first ones.
yeah, so I mean, as far as you want to hear my story about me, kind of, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean,
you,
so
you and the outlets.
yeah, I mean, so the outlets have crashed and burned.
Right,
Unfortunately,
right.
I mean, yeah, they don't
Destroyed.
exist
They
in
don't.
Boaz
They're
anymore.
gone.
But yeah, at one point in time, I mean, Boaz had like million plus people coming a year to shop. It was a huge industry back in 80s, early 90s when when I was growing up there. So Dad moved up there to start a business called Progress Rail. He moved there in '82. I was one. I actually grew up. I lived in Homewood for a year. Then we moved there. I don't remember anything about it, but it's great, right? But
Use it to your advantage. I'm a
so-
Homewoodian, right?
he started a business, bought him and his first cousin bought a business. They basically took railroad ties, cut it up, sold it down the road to a company called Mueller that makes the fire hydrants. If you
Yeah,
look at
I
any
did
of your
work
fire
at Mueller
hydrants,
one time.
Albertville's fire hydrant capital of the world. And so, yeah, there you go. There's an interesting
no
fact.
idea.
Yeah. So
I know.
anyway, so
Okay.
Dad and them supplied them the scrap, right? And then so they just diversified in the railroad industry and grew it to a huge company. I mean, if y'all remember when President Bush went to be laid to rest in Texas, there was a locomotive that pulled him with basically had a image of him on the side. Their company manufactured that. And so,
Okay.
yeah, through a company called EMD that was owned by Progress Rail. So I grew up in the railroad supply and service industry, got great parents. My mom is probably one of the most passionate people in the world for life, right? And I mean, they're both, solid Christian people. And,
Right.
so they helped plant our church. Our church is a church plant at Briarwood.
Okay.
And so, and then So I grew up there. I went to Boaz up until my into my sophomore year. Went to Westbrook down in Gadsden my junior and senior year. John Kroll is a friend of ours, had talked us into going there. So I went there. Then went to Auburn. Met my wife Kendall at Auburn. She's from Tupelo, Mississippi, and met her actually at a formal. And she was a Kio. I was a Fiji down there. And then we ended up getting married. And right after college, went into youth ministry at our church for, I guess 2.5 years. And,
Right.
Kendall's got like a gift with children. So she was a preschool teacher. She's amazing and really gifted there. And so worked in the Even Start program in Marshall County. That's a Head Start program. And so did that. And then I started a business called Dream Ranch, a commercial hunting and fishing lodge. And that kind of, so my off days at church were Saturday and Friday and Saturday, which you don't really have off days in youth ministry.
Right.
Going to
I was
ball
about to say,
games and all
right.
that. But I guess that was my off day. So we started building our business there and doing hunts and just started off small. And we had some property and it kind of just took off. It grew and Lord definitely blessed it. And then,
Right.
so yes, they did that. And then it got to the point where I felt like I couldn't do both well, right? I felt like, all right, I'm in youth ministry and that's really more than a full-time job. And so ended up going just volunteer, helping with youth ministry, subbing. We didn't have somebody and all that.
Right.
And so then Dream Ranch took off and we started the Tennessee Valley Hunting and Fishing Expo. And so I think through being involved in that's how I got involved in government at all, because the regulations impacting our business. And so we started
Having to go ask for permission to do this,
and
permission
so
to
we
do
started
that.
the Alabama Deer and Alabama Deer Association. I just was the executive director of that just for free, just to help our industry. But I remember having to go down and lobby Montgomery and get legislation passed and try to help our industry. And, it was just an industry that was highly regulated. And so that's how I got involved in the political world. And then, let's see. So then we had Hunter and Hayes were born. We had twins. Took us a while to have kids, but then we finally had kids. So we got married in 2004. In 2010, we had twins.
Okay.
They're awesome. And so they're twin
2010,
boys.
so they're 12 now.
Yeah. What
Okay.
now?
I said, so they're 12?
They're 12. Yeah. They'll be
Right.
13 in January.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're, full of energy, great boys, love outdoors, love everything sports. They play football, baseball, basketball. Unfortunately, all our kids are believers. So that's an answered prayer. And
Right.
then we got a daughter that's a huge blessing. We'd love for y'all to meet her. I mean, she's just a bundle of joy. And, that's kind of what I think of when I think of her. She's just happy. Rather than my mom. If you kind of you remember her, you're like, my mom's like one of the most. I tell everybody that it's not Steve Marshall or I that's the most popular person in Marshall County. It's my mom.
It's your mom.
Right? And so
So if your mom turns on you, you're done.
yeah, I'll beat. Yeah, no doubt.
I'm
Yeah,
out.
no
I'm
doubt.
out. But I'm not going to win.
But Addie is, I think.
How old is Addie?
So she's just turned 11.
Okay.
And so they're
Okay.
21 months different. So it's almost like having triplets,
Right.
raising
Yes.
them. And but yeah, I mean, greatest joy is definitely in my life is being a dad. I love being a dad and being involved. And, if you notice on social media, even though I have a busy schedule and we still own a lot of businesses, I try to make it a priority to be at my kids' sports and arrange my schedule around. That doesn't always happen,
Right.
but I just kind of think back to, you got one chance to be a dad,
Right.
And I just want to make sure they know that, hey, I'm going to prioritize
And when you're
them.
old, we're not coming to see you. The people in Montgomery aren't coming to see you, but your kids will.
You mean all my fake friends aren't going to
Yeah,
come
all
and
your
see me?
fake friends in Montgomery. You're the smartest, greatest guy ever. We love you.
Right. Yeah, I got a lot of fake friends. A lot of them have to be lobbyists. So,
Yes, that's
how about
exactly
that?
right.
But,
He understands it.
So, no doubt. So yeah, that's that. Then let's see, we have a real estate business, a construction business, and been blessed on that. And then I've always liked outdoors. So we've been involved in the outdoor industry. I'm out of those businesses now, but still love hunting and fishing with my boys and my daughter too. Addie goes and she doesn't necessarily kill anything, but she goes and
Right.
hangs out,
Well, that's
which
good.
is awesome.
That's really
and loves
good.
it.
That's
Is that
the
because
fun
she's a
part.
bad shot or she doesn't want to kill anything?
She just doesn't really care. I don't
Really?
push it,
She's just
but
like,
she's
hey.
all about going.
Hunting's
like
about the
riding
fellowship
four-wheelers
for
and-
me most of
yeah.
the time anyway. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
So let's see what else. And then politics, how to get involved in that. I never had a desire. So I wasn't involved in like SGA.
So your
I wasn't.
dad, nobody in your family was in
No, not at
politics?
all.
Okay.
I mean, like,
Did you go to college knowing you wanted to be a youth minister?
Not really.
Okay.
And so I interned while I was in college, as a youth intern, and then really enjoyed that and just the discipleship aspect and just the life on life. And then kind of got. I guess my junior year, they, senior pastor of our church said, hey, would you consider doing this? And I said, I'll be honest, I've never thought about this. So Kendall and I were engaged at the time. And so
Well, you were engaged as a junior in college?
probably my junior, senior year, something like that. Yeah. And we got married right out.
So Southern.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, I was 23, she's 22. We were
Okay.
young,
Right.
I mean, so, and then, yeah, so we ended up praying about deciding to do it, but not at all. I mean, I got my degree in marketing, always thought I'd go work for dad and his business. And then he ended up selling to Caterpillar. So that closed that door
Right.
back when I was probably a sophomore or something. And so just trying to, but I'm so glad I did it. I mean, I think just looking back, just, the impact. I mean, there's still students we see that we were able to pour into. And so we started like a really cool thing called Grace Fellowship Sports Camp. And and so that was just the idea of, okay, I love sports. Why don't we take, and I served on the FCA board, why don't we take that and turn that into a ministry? So we started that. Now FCA runs them, and that's how I got connected with Rick Burgess, because that was right after his son died.
Right.
And, asked him to come be a speaker, and then we kind of just hit it off, right?
Right.
I mean, and I love them. I mean,
Hunting,
they're so
fishing,
awesome.
outdoors,
sports.
and
I mean, and he's
y'all
such
are
like
best friends.
Yeah, he's kind of like a guy like Dan Roberts, right? Like when he gets to you, like, hey, what have you been reading your Bible? What's God teaching you? I mean, it's real. I mean, and like it's not like, hey, how you doing type thing. And so got to know him, and then we kind of decided to do hold on, let me make sure I tell you about the sports thing.
Okay.
So that was because that was cool. So that we started that sports camp, and brought in guys like that, Danny Werfel, just godly men and women that have been impacted in sports. And so then now FCA in North Alabama runs that, and they do camps in Huntsville, Coleman, Albert. Well, that all started from our church when I was a youth pastor there. And it was just, we did
That's
it there.
really good.
And they wanted to partner, and we said, sure, whatever. Then we eventually let them start running them, and the church just assists. So that was a neat, legacy thing there that God used us, on that ministry. And then so on the politics side, I wasn't involved in SGA. I was involved in leadership of our fraternity, but I was really focused more on I worked while I was in school. I worked at the bank as a teller and was focused on, okay, what can I do to make sure when I get out, I can provide for my family? That was my biggest concern.
How do I get a job?
And
and
so
how are we not homeless?
and so that was kind of, I don't know. That was my
Politics
biggest.
wasn't on the list.
Not
It's
at
like
all.
You get paid $40,000
I
a
always
year.
so I grew up very conservative, right? I grew up so I'm unique, and I grew up with a dad that's probably one of the smartest business guys in our state. I mean, he took a business that had two people, and they grew it into multi-billion-dollar. I mean, he's a genius when it comes to business. And then I grew up with a mom that's probably impacted more people and spoke to everybody in our county about abstinence and what you can and about life and adoption. And so for me, being a conservative is just how I was raised.
Right.
I mean, and from fiscally, from a Christian standpoint, and it's just who I am. And so I always voted Republican. I've never been anything but a Republican. Never. I mean, that's not an option, right? I mean, I mean, it's just not.
Well,
I mean,
there are a lot of used to be Democrats that are now Republicans in Montgomery. So
they're still Democrats.
Well, they just have an R now.
Right.
So
They're
that's good.
Republicans.
You're
no,
like,
I've always, and my parents have
You're not
always
a
been
faker.
Republicans, and that's just who we are as a family. And so, let's see. So then, how did I run for office? So I got a call to run for the House, of all people, from Mike Hubbard.
Okay.
And I knew him from, this is interesting.
trying not to giggle.
And so he called and said, hey, I
It's
want
okay
you
if
to
you do.
run for the House. And Kendall and I prayed about it. It's a neat story. So, and I was like,
Was that in 14?
This would have been in 13, right before
13.
14.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been
Okay.
the 14 election.
Okay.
And I said, man, Hunter and Hayes were 3, I guess. And Addie was 1 or 2 or something, whatever she was, I guess 1. And I was like, building businesses. And I was like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And like Kendall is, not political at all.
Right.
Just great mom, real involved in the church, great spouse, but like not involved politically, which I'm good with, right? Because,
Still.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Right.
yeah. I mean,
So
she's-
I can imagine, I don't know her, but she's like, do we have to go to reception?
Right.
She's not into
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, she's more about like real meaningful conversations,
Right.
instead of small talk, right?
Because
So like her having to go do like small talk is
yeah.
like
Right.
And
torture,
I
right?
bet
I
you
mean,
Same.
she would rather sit down and like talk about life and like
Right.
kids and like and so
Well, like I've asked them and I've asked my wife, when you go to one of these receptions and you say, oh, it's so nice to see you or good to see you again, does that count as a lie? Because I really can't stand that person.
right.
But I guess not. So your wife kind of sees it the same way as mine.
Yeah, and then we had small kids, business stuff. And I said, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And
Right.
then there was a guy at this
time out.
time.
Why did he choose you? Like, why?
All right, so I knew then. I can tell you exactly why. So, we. Had,
I mean, not that he shouldn't.
well, no,
That's
I mean,
not what
yeah.
I'm implying.
Right.
I'm just curious, like, why?
All right, so the
did he
connection
think-
with them was we had the Alabama Deer Association, which has supported candidates,
Okay.
So I had been involved in that, but
Okay.
not at all thinking about running. I was
not
just
yourself.
sick of,
Yeah.
people being in office.
And you're
that
an
were
Auburn guy.
anti-business. Yeah, and I mean,
it doesn't hurt
right? Yeah,
when
no,
it
I'm
came
an
to
Auburn-
Mike.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
helps. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
you're checking the list.
talked to
do we
Kendall, and there was a guy at the time that was discipling me. He was actually on the API board, Rob Grubb. And,
Okay.
you know, still one of my best friends. And Rob was like, hey, you know, you ought to at least pray about this. And I was like, well, okay, you know. And so I talked to Kendall, and she's like absolutely not. Like, you know, like, I mean, like, we got too much going on, because we did. I mean, you know, like,
Yeah.
small kids, like, people don't realize, like, how tough it is to serve in office with young kids. It's not easy. I mean, at all. Like, it's a lot better, I think, when your kids get older. So anyway, but we prayed about it. She didn't know I was praying this, but, you know, Rob and I, when we were meeting, said, okay, you know, our prayer is that if I'm supposed to do this, Kendall's going to be like, I should do this. So I get ready. I get up early. I get up, you know, 4:35. I'm out the door by 5:30 or 6 and go work. And so I was getting, and Kendall gets up early too. That's kind of her time before the kids get up. And, you know, she reads her Bible, does her quiet time, drinks her coffee, just chills or whatever, right? I mean, you know, it's kind
Because
of.
it's a fleeting moment.
Right.
You got
It
like
is.
30
Before the
minutes.
kids
You
are
And I'm
do
sure
it.
y'all can
If you're
relate to that as
lucky.
moms a lot
Yeah.
better than we can. But I mean,
it's
so that's
like a
kind of her
snippet.
thing. You know,
Yeah.
she wakes up at 4:27 every morning. I don't know why 4:27, but that's when she wakes up, right? And not 4:30.
That's funny.
Yeah, but you know, and so I'm usually up sometime within 20, 30 minutes of that. So I was getting ready to go to work, and this was when I was still at Dream Ranch, and we had hunters in, and she's like, hey, I want to talk to you. And I was like, what have I done? Right? You know, and so I was like, and she's like, I think you should run for office. And I was floored, and I said, why? And she's like, well, I was doing a Beth Moore study, and there was two things I was worried about. I was worried about persecution, and I was worried about our kids. And, you know, the Bible said in the study that she's doing says, you know, we're going to be attacked as Christians. And I was worried about, you know, people. And she still, to this day, she got off social media just because people are vicious and make up
that's
stuff
true.
and twist things. And so she's off social media. And that was what she decided to do in lieutenant governor's race.
Smart woman.
Yeah. And then on the kids, the lesson was missionaries were trying to decide whether or not to go in the mission field or not. And they were worried about the impact it would have on their kids. And the lesson was that God's in control, not you. And so she's like, those were the two things that worried me, the impact it'd have on our kids, which I honestly can say it's been a positive impact on them, honestly.
Right,
And,
right.
And so looking back, right, in my 8 years. And then, you know, so anyway, so she's like, I think you should run. And so I called Tom. I was like, hey, I'm in. I'm going to run. There's already somebody in there.
Right.
I called Rick and some other guys and got Rick up, and we did a big event, and we scared the other Republican out.
Right.
And and then I ran against a liberal Democrat that you'll know, Jeff McLaughlin.
Oh, yes. Yes.
most
Now I
liberal
remember why I was so
Wow.
happy when I
And,
met you. And I like
it was,
Jeff, but
right.
he's-
No, I get it. Like, everybody was like, oh, Will, we love you. Not because of you, because you
Right.
beat Jeff. Right. That was kind
And
of.
Jeff is not a bad guy, but he's really a leftist.
Oh, yeah.
I
And
mean, he really
and he-
genuinely believes all that stuff.
And so he does, and he, you know, he doesn't take campaign contributions, and
Right.
tries to make himself as like Mr. Rogers and
Right.
a moderate type guy, but he's not, right?
Right.
And
No, he's really
and he had
left.
lost 4 years before to Wes Long. Wes decided not to run, and then so anyway, we ran. It was a war. I mean, AA spent $350,000 against me, but we
Right.
whipped them, and we beat them bad, like 60-40. And so anyway, that's how.
So
I remember
when
that.
Kendall comes to you and says you need to run, are you excited? Are you relieved?
Yeah,
Are
no,
you,
I was
so
excited.
like God had already prepared your
Yeah, I
heart.
was.
You were
And I
there,
think I
but
wanted
you-
to, but I wanted to make sure she was on board.
Right.
I mean, and I wasn't going to do it unless she was.
because that's
And
a
so-
family decision.
whole
That's
thing.
a big one.
No, for sure. And then for lieutenant governor, I got in the House and was definitely like quickly. Mike and I got on different. I'm talking about Speaker Hubbard at the time. You know, got on different sides because I was kind of one of his like.
I think I told you when you got elected that you're going to end up on a different side.
right.
And I think you
Really?
looked at me like, no, these are my friends. They were all on the same page.
Right.
But it
I
doesn't
mean,
take long.
No, I mean, I was disappointed, to be honest. I mean, I
Right.
really was. I mean, I looked up to him, thought he was a great leader. And, you know, and then the first thing that really disappointed me was Governor Bentley had $800 million in tax increases he wanted because our general fund was flat, if you remember.
Right.
And I was like, oh, we're not raising taxes. I mean, you got to be
Right.
kidding me.
Right. We
I
all
mean,
campaign,
and I
we
mean,
all campaign against raising
We
taxes.
slayed them. I mean, we knocked them down to like where they did the cigarette tax, and then the you know it was the tax on nursing homes. I think it's like $100 million. So we knocked about $700 million of that down. And I say there was a group of about 20 or 30 of us, and there were some senators too. You know that, and then you know we helped kill the gas tax. I mean, you know, did a video.
I remember
and
y'all doing that.
I mean, and then you know when I go run for lieutenant governor, all these guys, you know, it's payback, right? They wanted to beat me and try to smear me, and they did. I mean, you know, you know my mom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the
Yep.
kindest ladies ever. I mean, so we're sitting there at the Hunting and Fishing Expo in Huntsville, and all of a sudden there's a running for lieutenant governor, long shot, right, against Twinkle and Rusty
Yeah.
Glover, and
Right.
Rusty was ahead of me. Twinkle was way ahead. I was,
Right.
down there with like a dead person in name ID,
Right.
6%.
Right.
But then we started moving up because we worked hard, we were able to raise money, get our name out. And then all of a sudden, we did a stupid prank in college. We thought it'd be funny to take those tigers and hide them in a house, as a giant fraternity house. And it really wasn't funny at all. But we thought it was at the time.
Wait.
Like, are you saying
So-
in the
They used to
cage?
have real.
No, all right.
No,
so
no,
these were the porcelain life-size tigers that were down around Toomer's Corner. So yeah, those tigers. So
Only a college boy would be like, "This is a great idea."
oh yeah, no, we
And
thought
I'm
it was
glad they're
awesome.
Let's
So,
take the
porcelain.
highly
I'm an Alabama
breakable.
fan. I know
Right.
nothing about
Okay.
these.
Right.
So.
all right, so they
Okay.
were there, kind of like I think they have like
Just-
the Bulls in Chicago. They're all over the
Okay.
city. So they have these
Right.
life-size tigers as a fundraiser. So we were like, they had this thing at Auburn called Amnesty Day. And in college, I was pretty straight laced, but we were pranksters. Okay.
Right.
I mean, like, we definitely did some stupid pranks, right?
Right.
And so we thought we were going to pull the greatest prank at Auburn, take these tigers, hide them, give them back on Amnesty Day, and then high five. Woo, we pulled it off. Well, we got caught before.
Oh, my.
And
Shocker.
So, yeah. And so we got charged with 7 felonies because they considered the tigers the donation value, which was $3,500 from alumni. So I can remember now. I called Dad. I'm like, hey, I might have a problem here. He's like, what do you mean a problem? I was like, well, we got charged with 7 felonies. So ended up, they all realized it was a prank. We had to do community service, Habitat for Humanity, pay a fine, which my parents, I give them credit, made me pay the fine back.
Right.
and work
No, I
and do
agree.
it. And then, what else? Have to write an apology letter, which I was, all right, this was dumb.
Right.
Well, all right, so now
Well,
fast
that's
forward.
fair though. I mean,
Fast
that's,
forward, I was
Twinkle,
19
bring that out.
Oh
And the-
yeah. So
Oh, my
like
goodness.
runs it on. I'm sitting there I'll never forget it, at the Embassy Suites. We're doing our hunting and fishing expo.
right.
I had Jace Robertson there, Michael Waddell. It was a big deal. I'm sitting there at breakfast, like 6:30. I'm like, wait a minute, why is my church at? Because we had a thing like where I used to be. It was called the church at. Where I used to be like in a pew, and I said, and then it has that, and it said, starts off with that, and then it transitions to, a felon, right?
Right.
It has a picture of me getting arrested when I was like 19, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And it didn't say that we did tigers. It said stole, whatever,
$7,000 worth of stuff
more
or
than that,
something.
whatever,
Yeah.
20-some thousand, right?
Right.
And then it said, but it gets worse. He also got arrested in Jackson County for I was like, what is that? I mean, I would remember if I ever got arrested. And so I called Steve Marshall. I'm like, hey, how can they say I got arrested when I didn't? What did I do in Jackson County?
Right.
And, and he's like, oh, that was a boating ticket. And when you sign the citation, that's considered an arrest. So, I mean, I guess been arrested a lot because I've got a lot of speeding tickets in my life.
Right.
And so that was the other one. So from that, I got Kendall. And like my mom was furious. I mean, she literally was like, whatever I have to
Oh my
do to make
gosh.
sure she loses. And, because we just thought
You
that was a
don't-
little unfair.
yeah.
And
Right.
I mean,
It's
look, I made a
so
mistake as
politics,
19-year-old.
Right, no,
I'll
I
admit
agree with
I
that.
shouldn't have done
Right.
that, right?
Right.
Foolish, but I mean, a lot of people did.
But we do
stuff.
stupid stuff.
And so,
Well,
when
because
we're
it
young.
all was true,
no, I did it.
everything
Right.
is
Right.
technically true, but
What
then
was
you
the
don't
rest of
give
the story on the
background.
boating thing? I never understood
it was
that
just
then.
all right. So all it
The
was
boating speeding ticket, like not
No,
going
I mean,
too
so
slow
the
on
boating
the,
thing,
on the
I was
wave,
driving my
on the
parents'
wake.
boat,
Uh-huh.
and ended up the ticket got dismissed, but they didn't have the stickers on the side, even though they were sitting in their house instead. And I just took their boat out on the
Really?
lake, and
So,
so I
you
got
knew
pulled
about
over.
his voting
Wait,
rights?
Oh,
all
but-
the
but
people
I-
in
but
the
I
universe,
was-
because you never get pulled over for not having the stickers because they're never out there.
Right. So
And so
that's
it
what
happened
I
to
got.
you.
No, what I
So
remember is
we
I was
Oh
led
my
to believe it
gosh.
was
Yeah.
something like driving intoxicated.
Oh no.
And it was stickers on the side of the boat.
Yeah, I've never
Wow.
had any of that.
No, I
stuff.
mean I
Yeah.
agree
No,
with
I
you.
mean,
I'm just
yeah.
saying.
It was that. So anyway, so what
But
happened was
their effort to make people jump to conclusions.
that's what
so
they
get
do.
this, it got dismissed.
Right.
Right. So I went and and we had the sheriff up there wrote, hey, it was from not putting the stickers on there when the judge realized they were sitting in his parents' house and that they
Right.
simply, I mean, we paid for them.
Right, which
to
is
the-
all they really care
Right,
about.
yeah,
they
want-
don't care
I mean,
that
we
they're
shouldn't
on
put
there.
them on there. We're
I get
technically
it,
wrong,
but the problem is
I mean,
that they want you to pay
and
for
so
Right.
That got it. So anyway, so then I was like, I called our consultant and said, look, you need to, and I went to the Huntsville Republican Women, and everybody's like, hey, what's this about you getting arrested,
Right.
and, being a felon? I'm like, because my team said, hey, just let it go. If you respond, you're losing. I called them back. I'm like, oh, no.
Right.
This is my reputation. I
Right.
am not going down on this. They're going to know the truth.
Right.
So we got a flatbed truck that we have, that we use on the farm, and I called somebody that I knew had one of those Tigers, and they let us borrow it because they were mad too because
Right.
this is crazy.
Right.
And then we
Was
pulled
it people that you had their Tigers before though?
yeah.
I mean, was it like the legitimate?
I was one of the
Tiger?
ones. It's
It
in
was
my-
one of the
it's in
ones
my
you took.
office in Montgomery right now. They let me keep it because they were mad because they're like, this isn't fair,
That's
and
awesome.
and then I got a bass boat, and got signs made that said "Twinkle's a liar." And I went to every media market in the state with Kendall there beside me, and we just spoke truth and said, hey, this is what happened. Like, if you don't want to vote for me because I stole a Tiger, because this point in time,
Right.
this was in the runoff.
This is the greatest
Right.
story
Right.
ever.
Yeah,
My
and
gosh.
like it's a war, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I mean, they thought they were going to knock me off, and it backfired.
I was going to say the argument
And-
can be made that doing that helped you win.
Yeah, sure.
Wait, no, it
Right.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Because I'll
You
say
have
this.
to go out with those kind of things and defend
Right.
yourself.
No, I was
mean,
mad.
Well,
I
it
mean, I
made
was like, I
people
don't care
pay
if I
attention
lose or
to the
not,
rest.
but I'm at least gonna, and so I felt good because I'd called into Rick and Bubba, and they were like, like trying to help me, and I knew we were coming back from Mobile. It was a whole day, right, the day before
Right.
the runoff, election, and we were driving up the interstate, and with this, probably looks weird, flatbed Tiger,
Right.
we hit every. I mean, I was trying to get it out to
awesome.
everywhere I could,
Right.
and all of a sudden people are honking, giving thumbs up. I'm like, she's toast.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I mean, like,
Right.
so
Right.
I mean,
Right. We're going to win.
and just because I don't think most people, look, there's still some people that certainly, judge me on that and whatever. That's right. I mean, I shouldn't have done it. I mean, I get that. But I think most people realize, like, okay, poor judgment as a 19-year-old. I probably did some things too that weren't wise
Right.
at 19. And
Right.
and I use a teachable
Actually,
moment.
I think it's
though.
kind of funny. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go down and you're going to lose, don't let it be for a Tiger.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
just go out, defend yourself.
Or
I think
stickers
that was
on a boat.
That yeah.
I'm still
Like,
surprised they
that's
charge you with
awesome.
7
So anyway,
felonies
that's-
though, because
That's a lot.
But then again, they're
Yeah.
chasing the quarterback down there for what? Evading police with a scooter. I mean,
Wait,
what is the,
what?
what is the
Yeah.
deal with y'all's law enforcement? It's just another thing. It's another
So-
thing for another show.
Wait, the
So I ended up-
quarterback
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
like recently?
All the sports people know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but that's
knows
okay.
what I'm talking about.
That's
I do,
okay.
yeah.
He does.
So-
He does.
So
But-
it's all good. But I know.
So
I'm
he ended up
sure
getting
you-
elected, and then that's how
Right.
it got to today, right? I mean,
Right.
and then up for re-election, and was fortunate to not have a Republican or Democrat. I
Right.
did end up drawing a Libertarian that I don't think has raised any money, and
Right.
I haven't even met. I have no idea. I haven't met her, so
I don't even
but
know
we're
who it
still
is.
working hard.
That's a
and so-
lofty goal. Like you're in the legislature for 4 years, and then you decide to run for lieutenant governor. Like
Yeah.
what
Mm-hmm.
you?
I can answer that. Why?
Yeah.
I didn't like being one of 105. I wanted to change
Makes a
things. And it's
huge
like
difference.
I don't want to do this forever. Okay, I'm different from a lot of people. I don't think career politicians are good. I really don't. And so
Do you mean like you want to get out of politics, or do you mean you want to keep moving up the ladder?
I think, well, for me, my goal would be to get to governor and change things in our state. Then I'm headed back to the private sector. And so
Right.
I don't
Really?
like. There's a
No
lot of people
desire to
wanting
go
me
to
to
Washington.
run
So there's
for
a
no,
term
zero.
limit and a time
I
limit
don't-
for you.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not going. There's so many people wanting me to run for U.S.
Yeah.
Senate. Right before Katie was in, before other people were in, before Mo was in. I mean, everybody wanted me to run. I was like, no, I'm not running. I don't want to do that. Like my heart's
Yeah,
not
but they
in
all
DC.
wanted to be governor.
And well, no.
Yeah, it's
Half of
true.
them saying, "Do you want to run for U.S. Senate? Want to be governor?"
Well, no. I mean, for me, I
None of
just
them
think.
do.
I mean, it's how your
People who
style. I
want
mean,
you to
but
run for something else. Absolutely.
But
want
Katie
your
Britt
spot.
and Mo would not want to be governor.
That's not what he said.
Oh,
What, no?
I thought that's what you said.
No. Yeah, I mean, no,
Anyway.
they were. I mean, so for me, it's just. I mean, look, there's people that I think are certainly gifted to be great senators. And obviously House members. I just am more of executive branch. This is what let's do. Let's get it done. And I kind of think everybody's got different skill set and
Yeah.
God-given abilities. And so for me, it was frustrating just being one of 105.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. I mean, and I mean, I could get coalitions and I was good at that and we could stop stuff. But to get I want to if I'm going to do this, right, you've got one life to make a difference. You better make it. I want to really change things for our
Right.
state and be like a DeSantis,
Right.
and bam, get some stuff done and move the needle. And then when I'm done, feel like, okay, good. I actually did some great things for our state, not just I got to governor or whatever.
Right. Then I can go to the House.
But I don't want to go to D.C. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I want good people there, and I think we need them. My gosh, more than ever. But that's not for me.
Right.
I mean,
No,
so-
I agree completely. I mean, imagine being a U.S. senator and it's as bad as being an Alabama House member. I mean,
Right.
1 of 100 is
Right.
I mean, it's
No,
really
I mean-
true. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost
That's
impossible.
50.
And so
That's half.
here's
Right.
the question. When you were in the house, how did you handle it when somebody that recruited you to get there, you're there, and then you end up on opposite sides, as both of you have been?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that constant withering, like, what are you doing, man? I thought you were one of us. You really going to do that? Like, how do you do that?
You
Yeah,
run
and-
for lieutenant governor and you get
Well,
out.
yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's just how I was raised. I didn't care, right? I mean, Mike Hubbard didn't define who I was. And so for me, I was going to stand up for truth and what I thought was right. And the last thing I thought we needed was a bunch of tax increases. And so for me, I didn't disappoint him. He disappointed me, right? I mean, he's the one that if he wouldn't have been in that situation, probably would have said, heck no, we're not doing this.
Right.
But because he was in that situation, he knew Governor Bentley was going to testify. He had to appease him and try to take the easy way out instead of fixing government. Let's just tax people. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, that's the last thing we need to do. There's so much waste in government and things that we could cut out. And don't believe that there's not. I mean, there is right now, today, still more things that need to be cut. I mean, so.
I think Alabama still has more government employees per capita than than any other southern state, and people don't realize
This is
that.
excellent. You don't love that?
Well, we got a lot of folks doing something. I know you've got a whole list
I
of
do.
questions. Go after
I
it.
told him when we were
I'm
walking
gonna
in, I was
lean
like, I
back
feel
and
like
just
I
let you
have
go.
Oz, like he's come out from behind the curtain and I get to ask him all the questions about how it all works.
Yeah.
But like my first question, I think this is so important, is what I was saying. Lieutenant Governor, that office is so important, but nobody knows what you do.
Correct.
And
Right.
nobody knows how important it is. So kind of tell us, I mean, if you want to go from 1 out of 100 to just the 1, you chose the office. I mean, and I would argue that at some point, maybe Lieutenant Governor was even more powerful than the governor. So what do you do?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Because most people, to your point, they know I've, drink Diet Mountain Dew. They know I have kids, they know most people, they know I'm conservative, right? So first I preside over the Senate, which is important, just like the speaker does over the House. Now, to your point, it used to probably be more powerful than governor. And then the Democrats stripped that when Steve Wyndham won lieutenant governor, whenever that was. I forget.
I can't
2000.
remember when
I think
that
I
was, and I was there.
Long
I was
time
there.
ago.
I think it
So
was in
what
2000.
changed?
All right, so they took some of the. All right, but they're still have power of the gavel, right? Which is powerful. All right, meaning that like when the abortion bill came through, we gavelled it through and ran over Democrats, and why? Because it's the right thing to do. And that was a game changer. And look at what happened, right? You've got Supreme Court race, and so out of anything I've ever done, I mean, that's lasting. I mean, my gosh, I mean, that's going to save a lot of lives in Alabama. Really proud of that. You also have the ability to assign bills. So senator introduces a bill, we decide what committee it goes to, and we try to do that fair and not let politics get into that. But if you wanted to, you certainly could send bills to committees to die. We don't do that. We try to just say, okay, what is the bill? And just, what is the content and where does it need to go, and let the process take care of itself. That's how we handle it. And I've instructed our staff to do that when they're assigning the bills. As far as, I mean, if I wanted to, Scott knows this, I don't have to call on people.
That's right.
I mean, I don't have to. I mean, we try to call on people and make sure we're fair in what we're doing, and we've done that, but I don't have to. I mean, we could work with people to adjourn. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
I've been there when it's been unfair, and
Right. I mean, and so
stuff gets stirred up quickly.
Well,
I mean,
that
so
happens.
and then all right, so other stuff is lieutenant governor, right? Then I have probably 1,000 appointments that we have to vet. That's probably something most people don't realize that's really important. All kind of different commissions, agencies, boards. So I think I have a pretty huge role in making sure we vet to put strong conservatives that represent Alabama values, what I consider Alabama values, right, on those positions. And so that's something that's real important. And we have a lot of appointments on stuff like that. And so, that's a huge responsibility that we spend a lot of time on. Not something we talk about. It's not something I like put on Twitter or, that. But I mean, my gosh, that is a huge role that we've got that makes a big impact, right, on all these different, every board, agency, commission. I'm also part of the committee of assignments. So I decide, along with the Senate leadership, what members get what committees, and we're involved in that. Also, the leadership meetings on Wednesday mornings, and so obviously can influence the direction the Senate goes to a degree. I'm only one person in there. Let's see what else. So that's that. Then I'm also, part of the executive branch, right? And so my roles there are somewhat limited. Well, actually, a lot limited. But but there are some areas we work that are really important. So we're chair of the Small Business Commission that traditionally had been under the governor's office, and then Governor Ivey asked us to take that and run with it, and so we've done that. And just because of my background in small business, we have the 21st Century Commission on Workforce Development that we work with. And so my goal is to make Alabama the workforce engine of the Southeast. And there's 55,000 high school students a year that graduate. Honestly, there's a lot of that. 65% of those students end up not getting a 2 or 4 year degree. All right, so that means we got 20, 30,000 students a year that are graduating that are not going to a 2 or 4 year college. How can we get them trained for a job? So that means we better get them in high school. Right. And so we got to do a better job of that. So we're working on a plan there to really try to, fix education in Alabama, because it's all about test scores and about going to college and all that. Well, they're not going to college, all of them. So how do we get that fixed? Let's see, I've been national chair of the Aerospace States Association, going out recruiting aerospace companies to Alabama. We got Space Command because of merit, not politics. We're whipping everybody in that. It's pretty fun. And, so we're beating Colorado, California, and they can't compete. I mean, their policies and, what they're doing there. I mean, they're just killing themselves. Florida's a good competitor in aerospace. And then Military Stability Commission, I'm chair of that. That's a big deal. We passed 22 bills to try to make us the most veteran military-friendly state in the country. And then just last session, legislature decided to task me with reauthorizing our incentives, which has been a pretty big task. And so the Growing Alabama and Alabama Jobs Act, those expire in, I believe, July. And so we have to pass something next session, or those, go away. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that we work on.
So people need to, you
Pay
control
attention.
what comes on the Senate floor and what comes up for a vote. And what I have a request.
Okay, well, somewhat on what comes up on the Senate floor. So I need to explain that process in a second.
Well, so
Rules.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Senator Wagner.
Right.
Yeah.
It was me for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Long story.
Wait, what?
Nothing.
I missed all that. I don't know what y'all. Okay, but so why don't you put out the special order calendar? It's really hard to keep up with you and with what's happening.
Okay. So
Can you give me 24 hours?
can I give you 24 hours on special order calendar?
Yeah.
No, I don't normally have that. I mean, so.
Who?
All
That's
right,
the
so
rules,
let me-
Chairman.
So bill gets introduced.
Jabo, come on.
Yeah, bill gets introduced, right? Comes to our desk. You'll see
Okay.
it. They'll introduce it. They'll hand it to the staff in front. It comes up to us. We assign it to a committee,
Right.
right? And then it's going to go to that committee. It's going to get passed out. Then it's in position to come to the floor. And then the rules chair, the rules committee, will decide what bills come to the floor. I don't have any input on that. And so they decide what comes. And what
Your
happens
input comes on the front end where you can send it to a committee to die or
That's
not.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and we try, we try to work.
When I
on-
was the rules chairman, there was a 24-hour notice.
I
So
need
Yeah,
to-
and
I'll
it-
call
it's just
Jabo.
saying.
it absolutely can done. Yeah, just saying.
It drives
Just
me
saying.
insane. It's
Yeah.
really hard. And I don't know if there's some strategy, but I'm I can't keep up with y'all. I'll call Jabo.
If you
We're
give me
good.
your information, I can get somebody on our staff to
Yeah.
make sure they send
hard
you
to
the
keep
special
up.
order calendar. If
It's
that's something
probably
As soon
to
as you
keep
get it.
we don't
people
get
like
many
me
requests on
out
that.
of Montgomery.
So we can, yeah.
Well, when House Bill 123 was coming up on the very last day of session, and anyway, that's when I really was I need a better heads up these things. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So you okay, and then how did you learn to do?
What?
It's such a funny question. How did you learn to do all the formal talking? Do they send you to a class where you're yes, Mr. President, you may have the well, or how do you learn that? Is there somebody that sits behind you in the beginning and is say this?
Yeah. So I got elected. So my biggest fear on, getting lieutenant governor was getting down there presiding and then not knowing the rules and
Yeah,
looking
you don't
dumb, right? I mean,
know.
so I practiced for a month straight with
What do you
different
do? Do you
senators.
just
I had
sit
we
there?
role played it.
Okay.
And I
Oh,
went through
wow.
it because
Okay.
I learned by doing.
Okay.
Right.
And actually doing it instead of just reading something. I'm okay at that, but I just practiced. I had senators come in. Clay Schofield, Cam Ward at the time, whoever was there.
right.
I just said Jabo came.
Is
Whoever.
Pappas,
I just said-
still there?
and then I hired Greg Pappas
Okay.
and Pat Harris.
Okay.
So I had the two most knowledgeable guys in the building.
Right.
Period. Right. That were working for me on the rules.
Right.
And then I just studied more than I'd studied since college. and then just read up on everything. And because I wanted to be, try to be the most knowledgeable person in the room on that. And then I had the two guys the Secretary of the Senate, and then I hired the guy who's Secretary of the House that knows those two guys know more than anybody in Montgomery on the rules and the Constitution, just to make sure we did it correct. And then I practiced a lot.
Yeah, because you can look
But I mean, I
really
go pretty
stupid,
fast.
really
If
fast.
y'all pay attention, like I'm fast. Like, I mean, if you notice,
I
like,
can
we
think of
fly.
someone who was lieutenant governor who didn't know what they were doing. But we're not going to talk about that on this show.
No, well, I mean, we could
Yeah, so-
if you want to.
We could,
But
but,
it's
no,
like
it's
any-
but Will
impressive
knows what
because-
he's doing.
Because
Yes.
like last time I was watching session, you're like just sitting there. You're not even paying attention, but you're saying all the right things in between Diet Mountain Dew sips. And I'm like, that is so intimidating. Like I'd get up there and be like, but
Oh no,
I guess
it was
you just figured
intimidating
out.
for me too. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. That was a huge fear, and I just worked hard and studied and practiced, and
I'd wear an
hopefully do a good
earpiece.
job. So
And
I
make
would- I
somebody
would-
tell me the things to
You're
say.
the
But
Joe
also-
Biden, the Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
That is such a timely PSA, though, for all those people who say, well, you have to have been there for years before
Right.
you can get this position or that one.
Right.
How about
don't.
you just study and figure it out?
It's a good point.
Which is what-
a few days.
Amen.
That's America, okay?
Right.
I just timely PSA.
You don't have to know.
You don't.
Regular people
you
can
just
do it.
have to be willing
Yes,
to
they
learn
can.
and
Right.
to figure
Absolutely.
it out.
Yeah.
And have
And
a
ta-da,
core set
ta-da.
of beliefs. You don't have to know all the details
No.
if you go by your principles.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And,
No,
and that's
absolutely.
the big challenge. I remember I was there. It was just so disappointing to see people get elected, believe one thing, and then over a certain amount of time transform into some creature that I don't recognize. And it's good to see people who believe the same thing that they did when they started.
yeah, I think
So-
the key on that is just don't let it go to your head. I mean, if you
Right.
notice, I don't wear like the pins. I don't
Right.
tell people to call me Will, not governor. I mean, so I just think you got to be,
gotta
small
stay a
things.
little
I don't,
grounded.
like at home,
Right.
like when I'm in Gunnersville, I don't use security for anything. I mean, just try to have like normal life with our kids. Like we go to ball games, just us, like, and so, I mean, there's things like that. I think
And your
we
wife
try to be
says,
intentional about.
take out the garbage, and you're like,
Oh, of course.
yes, man.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
kind of
Yeah.
brings you
Yeah,
back.
exactly.
I know exactly.
Yeah.
I lived it.
Yeah.
Don't care who you are,
No.
take out the garbage. Okay, no,
Why are
you
you
got
looking
it.
at
I know
me?
you have
So-
another
Because no, why are you
list
looking at me?
because you got these questions you
got-
want to go through.
No.
Go.
Amy Beth, you do. You
What
ask
number are you
something.
on?
We
Yeah,
haven't
what
even
number are
gotten to
you
any of
on?
my questions.
Well, we have asked some of them. I think they're really good.
They're very good
The first
questions.
question I had, you both just answered, so that was really good
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to know what happens to people when they get down there and they seem to completely change their colors and their spots, and they're like, "Who is this person that I sent down there? I don't recognize them anymore."
Well, it's what we talked about. I think some people, the money, it's like the lobbyists and the money, and I don't know. I think some of them just get corrupt because the power is. I mean, I watched it. I spent a session. I'm from Knoxville, and I spent a session working for two representatives in Tennessee, and I watched as like one of the ones that I worked with was freshman. It was her first session, and like even by the end of it, and I'm working for her, I'm like, who are you? And I don't know what happens.
Wow.
It's this weird thing, but and then I think some of them is what we were talking about, where and right or wrong, it's just the way it is. Like if you want to get things done, you have to kind of play the game. But for people that are principled, and I mean, do you not think like look at I don't know if I want to use names, but if you don't play the game a little bit, you don't get very far. But that doesn't mean compromising. So like, how
That's
do you?
tough. I mean,
how do
it
you keep
really
that?
is.
I mean, you did it, but then you
Yeah,
bowed out and you left us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think you have to pick your battles and that kind of stuff. And if you have allies, and that's one of the reasons I was so disappointed. I mean, we took over the legislature in 2010. Republicans did. That was before Will came, and there was just so much promise. We had all these things we had promised the voters. I mean, we had the votes. We could do what we wanted. Then in 14, I'm leaving in 14. Super majorities, and you just think, what happened? And I think that's what was kind of jaded me was we could easily make all these reforms that we're still fighting about years and years and years later, and we didn't
So why not?
because lobbyists re-engaged, money started being spent. When I was giving Will a hard time about at the start of the show, and I don't even know if it'll make the cut, about, oh, well, you're the smartest, you're the greatest, you're the awesome. And he said something about fake
Your
friends
fake
and
friends.
stuff. A lot of people that really starts going to their head. And I was serious about your wife saying, take out the garbage. I mean, you got to have friends and family who are still going to give you a hard time or still going to aggravate you. And you're still Will or Scott or whoever. And if you don't have that, and you're just, hey, I really am smart. I really am good. Call me the honorable, because people treat you differently.
Right.
And some people just can't take that. And that's why I kind of believe that, you know, a lot of times you kind of want to see how people have done in that kind of position before. Maybe it's not elected, maybe it's at their church, whatever, how well they deal with being someone. Because if they don't pass that test at a lower level, you really don't want them to have power and influence. And just some people just can't take it. I guess that's fair. I guess you would agree with that.
I mean, I think down there, I mean, you know, you get to your point, right? You get a lot of fake stuff, fake affirmation. Oh, and it's all, oh, you're great, you're wonderful. That's just not reality.
Right.
Right. And so I think some people, right, it goes to their head and they start thinking that, and that's dangerous. And, you know, just a sin trap that people can fall into. And so, you know, I mean, I think that's certainly, to answer your question, I think definitely that's a trap a lot of people fall into. But there's still, I mean, a lot of people down there that are serving for the right reasons and want what's best for the state. And, you know, really, you know, it's just tough to sometimes get consensus, to your point, because of special interest.
Right.
Yeah.
And my vision for the future, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this, because you said you want to, you know, go as high as you can possibly go in the state to make change for the state of Alabama. It's been my consensus that we've had a number of governors, Republican governors, who have had every opportunity in the world to, I'm going to use a Barack Obama term just because it works this time, to fundamentally transform the way the state is run. We have a lot of good old boys who decide what happens and what doesn't happen. They get incentives, other people don't. Small businesses kind of left out, big businesses get it. But I've always thought if we ever had that Republican governor who says, you know what, I'm going to have the bully pulpit and I'm going to push for these reforms, whether it's school choice or whatever it is, where that person, because a lot of the most controversial things that I was ever able to pass was because the people were behind it. And because I was out on radio programs, out doing things, and people were like, why aren't you for that bill, to their legislators? And if a governor ever did that, we could see huge reform, because legislators follow the people. And if the people were following the governor, we could do great things. And we've had multiple Republican governors who seem like, to me, and you don't have to answer this, I'm going to say it, who just want to be governor, not be that governor that can actually fix things.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to weigh in on that.
Yeah, my
that
favorite
vision.
governor is Ron DeSantis, because he gets things done. If I ever get there, you better believe I'm going to use my political capital to move the needle.
Right.
I don't want to just be there. I mean, like, let's actually have school choice. Let's cut taxes. Let's really shrink government. Let's, you know, go in and transform a lot of this stuff, cut things that should have been cut. I mean, just common sense things.
Yes.
It's really not that hard.
And
I mean,
think,
you know, and you just start, I mean, you know, it's just stuff like, oh, of course, right? I mean, why do we duplicate these and just get rid of regulations that are stifling? And, you know, and Alabama will thrive. I mean, and, you know, and actually shut down schools that are failing.
A governor who
I mean, have
says, hey,
charter
look,
schools,
I've seen all you Republican legislators' mail pieces that you filled up your constituents' boxes with, and let's just pass the things y'all put on there.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Then
it
we'd
seems
be
like we
bold.
can't do it.
Can you even imagine?
It'd be great.
It would be great. It's like a dream.
And, you know, I think relationships, to your point, how do you get stuff passed, right? I mean, without compromising your beliefs. I mean, I think you've got to have good relationships. And, you know, one of the best advice I got from somebody when I got elected is, hey, the person that was against you this time could be for you on your next bill. Don't burn a bridge.
Okay, that's what I mean by playing the game.
Right.
It's like,
I mean,
I
so
guess
that's what I've tried
there's a
to do,
negotiation side to it,
Like,
and that I think you can do it well, but I don't know if many people
Like,
figure that out.
I realized I was beat on the gas tax this time. Like, I was dead, right? I wasn't for it. I mean, everybody knows that. If you look, I didn't get invited to anything. Governor was mad at me, you know, all that, right? I wasn't for it, but I knew I could go in and wage war and scream and cry, and, you know, but I was beat. I mean, you know, they had that thing pass through. And so I decided not to use my capital on that. But, you know, I did use it on the, you know, abortion thing, where I gavelled that through and ticked off every liberal in the state, and, you know, gave all kind of crazy threats to my daughter, and, you know, it's just nuts. I mean, so to me, I use it on stuff, right? I mean,
That's
so
awful.
No, it is.
That's
but,
awful.
I mean, people are just, it's just a sin issue with them. I mean, that's fine. It's what I expect. So,
That's
but yeah, I mean, so, for me, I think relationships are key. And I think, certainly if you look at a governor like DeSantis setting the vision, you know, getting the public on board, using the bully pulpit, to your point, and then, you know, getting legislative action behind it. That's how you move a state forward.
Right.
And, you know, that's certainly what I would do if I was ever given the opportunity to be there. And I try to do it in the role I'm in now, but I just don't have the same. I mean, I have a pretty big bully pulpit.
Yeah,
We've
but
stopped
being
some
a
stuff,
governor is different. And I do think that some of the, what I call the good old boys or the establishment or the swamp or whatever who spend a lot of their time and you know, one of my favorite terms is all they're asking for is a fair advantage. That if they realize they may not get their fair advantage, but they're also not going to have their legs cut out from under them where they're not the victim. Because sometimes I think they push for what they want just to put up the walls that say nobody's taking advantage of me. You're not going to tax me. You're not going to do whatever. If they realize it was even handed, they might be like, okay, we can go for if it's going to be level for everybody and it just makes it all legitimately fair. Not to use a leftist term, I think reform is definitely possible in the state.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree.
With the right leadership.
Yeah, no, and I think the key is, like I said, I mean, it's, you know, you look at if you can have a governor and then you get a pro tem, you know, majority leader, you know, speaker, you know, majority leader in the House.
The longer this list goes,
and then, I mean, well, I mean, I know, but I mean, I have an advantage. I serve with some of those people.
Right.
And I think, you know, any state is, in my opinion, okay, it's just my opinion, they're dying for a leader to cast a vision and like in Alabama, like what are Alabama values, right? Cast that out there. Like, you know, I think to your point, people want change, right? They know that we don't need, you know, Victory Land having, you know, gambling down there, you know, with the whatever. I mean, you know, the slot machines that aren't slot machines, you know, I mean, that's just crazy, right? I mean, and that there's so many things we can change in our state. And, you know, you look at it, I mean, education, you know, why can't we move the needle? You know, you look under Riley, we did. Alabama Reading Initiative. You know, and like, how about we hold people accountable? We get rid of tenure.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, do some things that are going to train. I mean, I'll do it. That's part
well,
of the reason
it might be the
was-
easiest to just go ahead and punt and go school choice. And
No, I'm for that.
A lot of that other
100%.
stuff will
I
just
mean,
work its way out because
I
what are they
think
going
there's,
to do?
I mean, it's, yeah, I think school choice, but I think also, I mean, we got to get rid of some of these bad policies that were put in there under Paul Hubbard. I mean,
I
tenure's
agree.
one of it, right?
I
I mean, we
agree.
need to have more charter school options, more public school options, because I don't think everybody can go to a private school. I mean, I know that's, and so we got to have a strong public school. And then we also need to stand up for, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I mean, like, we need to stand up for Christian values that make sense. I mean, this stuff that's going on in our schools is garbage.
Oh yeah,
And,
I mean
you know,
they can teach any secular. I'm going to use the word pagan, evil thing possible. But you come along and say, hey, well, how about you know, we just post the 10 Commandments? What? They go crazy, start screaming
and
like
it's-
banshees
yeah, it's-
because they know they're getting their way, and they're pretty happy about it.
Well, and when you talk about, you tell these stories, what's happening in schools, you think it's some like big city, you know, far away, these leftist ideologies that are coming in, and it's not. It's like my high school had a transgender services resource flyer sitting outside of the counselor's room. Like, literally, kids didn't even have to talk to the counselor. They could come and pick up a flyer that said where you could get your name changed and where you could get sex hormones, and no parent or no counselor, you don't have to.
And the only answer
I
is,
mean,
oops, we
that's
don't
in
know
North
how that
Shelby
got
County.
there.
Yeah.
Did they really say that?
Right.
Was that the response? We don't know. It's just
No, I talked to a Shelby County board member, and he said, well, technically that was an accident. It was supposed to be inside the counselor's office, not outside
Always.
the counselor's office.
Oops.
And I'm
Right.
like, that still doesn't make me feel better. I feel like that's a family issue. You know, parental rights are really.
But I promise you that they'll know if the Gideons were outside handing out Bibles. They will know that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That might stand out.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time
Sorry.
because you have to, and I have so much, it's always me. I have so much more I want to get to. Okay. Originally, when I said we need to have Will on, I don't think I said that. I think I said Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth on, but you said call you Will.
Yeah.
We were talking about like a legislative preview, like what we might see, because it's a new quadrennium.
We
Things
can do
are
that next
changing.
time.
No.
He can tell us.
Why can't we
might
have
not
why
ever
can't-
come
the
back.
ability.
Like,
Come
he
back.
might be like,
He
I'm
likes
done.
me
This
and
is
Amy
it.
Beth.
I like all of y'all. I've enjoyed being here. So,
Okay,
Allison, don't believe I like you
I
too.
will
So,
let
yeah.
you have
All's
that.
good. Yeah.
Wait, so don't talk about any of these things?
No,
No,
you can
we're
ask
going to do a
one.
lightning round. You ready?
Okay. Sure.
Okay, these are things that I
Love
think.
it. You go, girl.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have time to play this or that, though.
But it's okay. I like lightning rounds.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
so lightning round. These are things that I think we might see in 2023. This is a good one to start with. Do you think the abortion bill will be revisited?
I support it as is. I mean, I'm not changing it.
And he has
So,
a gavel.
But that,
But we didn't talk the rules, Chairman.
but
Yeah.
we'll call
And
Jabbo.
I understand.
But I know that's your position. Are you hearing that it's
Oh, I'm sure there'll be people that are have more moderate opinions on that, and Democrats certainly will bring it back up, but I don't think it'll pass.
Is it one of those things, we passed it, we want to be the most life state, and oh no, we never thought Roe v. Wade would be overturned?
I mean, my position is life's a life, and I just think that it needs to stay the way it is.
Okay. ESG. Everybody's talking about ESG. Well, this is important because it really, I can't even, it's so wrong. ESG investing in Alabama, like, how do you feel about that? And will Alabama continue, will you support and partner with companies that like push an ESG agenda?
What do you mean by support and partner?
I mean, like, would you use companies that...
Are you comparing it with Ron DeSantis and Florida's policy?
Yeah,
where they're like, hey, we're not...
I mean, because...
You're going to do all that. We're going to avoid some of these companies that are pushing these things.
Or maybe the clear, just how do you feel about ESG and this whole environmental, social governance, kind of social credit score? And especially in terms of companies, taxpayer money could be going to fund these companies that really are working against conservative values.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not for that. I mean, I think that's insane. So I think obviously I think my job is to look at what other states have done, look at what Governor Sanders, other conservative governors have done, and I mean, fortunately we have some, I'm part of RLGA, Republican Lieutenant Governors Association.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I'm using that. We find out like we got a policy from him dealing with, on financial literacy, right? To where every student in our state is going to be taught how to balance a checkbook, right? And that came straight from them. But I think on that issue, we'd look at what they did and try to draft something similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the mental health services bill? What can we do about that?
As far as on, what do you mean? Like,
well, I mean, we have the opt-in when you're above age 14, which also we need to revisit that. But this whole idea of mental health services being in schools and parents being kept on the outside. Yes, they were supposed to opt their children in younger than 14 and then send a letter in that Allison is brilliantly written for kids to opt out. Well, it's really good. To say I don't want to be a part of that.
The law against.
But what can we do about that? Because we don't want our kids being counseled by people we don't know. Or some kids, I've talked to parents, they're like, well, but I know that my kid's teacher, I know the counselor, I'm fine with that. I'm like, yes, but what are they actually talking about?
Right.
And what information are they actually gathering on your kids?
Right.
And what can we do
What are
about
they giving
that?
your kids?
Yeah,
who
what
14?
are they giving them?
Yeah, I mean, I think on that, certainly, I mean, we have the ability to amend it and put as strong a language as y'all think we need. I mean, I think obviously having parents engaged in what they're taught, I support that 1,000%. And so, we have the ability, to make sure that we put that language in there.
I just was curious. That bill, I don't know where it came from. It was kind of hung out there all session and passed the House. And then the last day, that's what got me fired up about the special order calendar. And I talked to people in the Rules Committee that said it wasn't going to come up, and then it did. And so we were scrambling, and actually myself and two other people wrote the opt-in portion that Senator Gavan presented that day, because we have got to preserve parental rights. And people were mad at me, like, why do we have to opt in? It's such a pain. And I'm like, I don't care. I send my kids to a specific counselor for a specific reason. I don't need some woke counselor that I don't know interfering with that. Now, if you want to use that, I'm all for that. Like, if a parent decides that's a great thing for their child, I totally support that. But I just think it's a slippery slope. I was more kind of curious, like, where did that, do you have any idea where that bill started? I know Ledbetter sponsored it. I just didn't know the major, I think it was just a federal nationwide push.
I can find out. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, we'll follow up about that.
So,
Okay.
What about school choice?
Yeah, for it. I think when you look at, and I'm for just, my opinion is this, right? Every student in this state, and it would cost us about $400 million to get the students that are already in private schools, is what, but I mean,
covered,
if you look at, the amount of growth we've had, we have 60% growth in our ETF, we can afford it. And so I think everybody would get a voucher in our state, and then they decide whether they want to take their money to a public school, private school, homeschool, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, everybody pays taxes that has kids in our state.
That's right.
And so, you should get your, slice of money, right? And be able to use it where you want. And then that's going to create, obviously, competition, which we know in the free market, competition works. I mean, and so that's a no-brainer.
Right.
And I think something we're way behind. I mean, if people can listen to it, like, we're way behind other states in this, and it's killing us in education.
And I would advise some of those legislators who have tough times with it, look, just bite the bullet and quit trying to, oh, I'm doing a little bit. You're going to get hit in the face just as hard every time, but you're voting. These guys are voting to get hit in the face 10 times. Let's just do it once. Take your beating from the teachers union and move on. Do
places
what's
like
right
New
for
York can have school choice. Alabama can have school choice.
Yes, and let's just go ahead and do
schools.
it and not try to micromanage it and all that kind of stuff. Put the money in the backpacks, send them.
Yeah.
We're like bottom 5 in reading and math. What we're doing is not working, so we might as well switch it up. You know, I mean, it's like, let's try something new. But would you, because Del Mar's actually came out with a good version, and then they just totally screwed it up. And one of my hesitations is the testing requirement. You know, that Mackey thinks he needs to test all the homeschoolers, and to me, that's just a little cracked door for the government.
This is why
to
we're
come
not in their school at all. Is we don't want any part of that.
Here's the beauty, though. If you make them give everybody the test they're going to give homeschoolers, and if the kids in the public school fail it, they automatically fail. They will never come up with the test.
Wait, say
Does that make
again?
sense?
That's funny.
The test that they want to give the homeschoolers.
Yeah.
If the legislature says that's fine, we'll do that, but we'll also give that exact same test to the kids in the public schools.
Oh, you're saying the public school kids would fail it?
Yes. Or it'll be so easy that everybody will pass it. They'll never get it done.
They won't, because it took them so
around.
long with the homeschool when Will was
With the
homeschooled
sports.
and was playing sports.
Right.
They never quite got that done.
Right.
Now, I'm saying that with a daughter who's
they're
at
trying
Oak Mountain, and
for-
she is very happy with her classes and her teaching, and she's learning. And I recognize, though, that not everybody is in that situation.
Right.
But we only take school year by year. We never commit to anything all the way through. We're like,
And
we will evaluate
I think the
in the
point is
beginning
they
and in
just want to
January.
be unfair sometimes with homeschoolers and say, oh, we got to make sure that homeschool family's doing the right things. And I get that. But let's have that same accountability for everyone.
They even wanted to check in on some homeschool when we were coming through. They wanted to come to their house and check in to make sure that they were following the rules. Like weird stuff was happening years ago. So that's got to stop too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, my thoughts on that, parents are in charge. They're going to know what's best, and they want to homeschool them and all that. Let them have at it, you know?
Right.
I mean,
and
that's
then
really
to your
my
point,
opinion.
I mean, is it going to be worse?
I don't think
our
so.
outcomes aren't going to be worse if we try something new.
It's kind of hard to.
Let's try it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. And look, and let me say this. I think it is a tool, but it's not the only one. I mean, it is certainly going to improve, but then we've got to do a better job of getting teachers properly prepared. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not, I could write like 20 things, we need to do for real that would make a difference in our state. And so, but that is probably right now my number one thing I'd like to try to get done.
You think we'll
school
see
choice.
it again this session?
I think it'll get brought up. I think it's going to have a hard time passing.
Dang it.
Yeah, I'm just being honest. I don't, so.
No, you're right.
Okay,
You're
that
right about
means that we need to get mouthy. Hold on, I'm not done. Don't go.
Go ahead.
You
Go
gotta
ahead. Go.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay.
I thought you were lightning round. You're like the
I know.
slowest lightning person I've ever seen.
Okay.
It's like the limping round.
This is you in front of the gas tank
Uh-huh.
on Instagram.
Yes.
Or the gas pump. Like, you realize that we can suspend that gas tax. Has the legislature ever thought about that?
Yeah.
You think maybe they will?
I think it's possible. You're talking about using the just suspend it period, or you're talking about using
Either one, just like helping the people out a little bit.
Be nice.
Like, even you weren't happy. And and it's like we're paying like New York prices for gas.
Yeah, but the legislature will say, "Oh, we're used to it now. Nobody's whining about it now." That's what they'll say. Some of them will. Will won't.
Well, I mean, I think I'll say this. I do think there's a movement to cut taxes in Alabama.
Every
sure.
state around us is just. Mississippi is
So,
beating us in the tax cut.
I do think you'll see some. I mean, we had like last time we got rid of the personal property tax minimum threshold, raised it to 40,000. It helps every small business, right? That was big. Got rid of the business privilege tax, which I've always thought was crazy.
That
It's
was
not
like
a privilege.
$100.
Right.
I know, but still, it was a big number statewide because all the businesses have to get it.
Every little business.
But we
You
have
know,
a
I'm just saying-
surplus. I mean, we're sitting on a ton of money.
And I think what you're going to hear from me, I can't speak for other people, is that, we have this extra money. All right, we also need to be smart about we're probably going into a recession thanks to Biden and him totally crashing our economy. So we need to be smart and put money back, which they did through Proration Prevention Act. But we could see, not the same growth we're used to. And so I'm for, cutting taxes, giving money back to people. and figuring out wherever that is, because I think that's just what's needed is the people's money, not government. And when we have a surplus, my opinion is you give that back to people. You don't grow government.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just kind of how I've always felt.
We're just gonna have to be done.
We got to finish.
Okay.
I do have an outside the box idea for when people give taxes back, because conservatives are real bad to say sometimes, hey, look, we give them back to the people who paid them, and that makes perfect sense. But there is the idea out there that you give them back to everybody. Like, say there's 400 million left over, you send everybody a check, even the people who didn't pay, and you say, oh, by the way, if we raise taxes, this money goes away. You won't be getting this check next time. Where people will be like, hey, I'm getting that check. Are you kidding? I'm not voting to raise taxes. I would take that plan in a heartbeat. But what we do is we give it back to people who paid it, and then millions of Alabamians go, I want to raise taxes so I can get something. So I can get something for free. Well, give it back on a per capita basis, and then make people have an incentive not to raise taxes on other folks. So it's just a novel idea. But you're here and you're the lieutenant governor, so I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I like it. I will say this.
Just
I did want
saying.
to tell you one bill we passed last session that I think will help change Alabama on the unemployment side. We had a lot of people that got on unemployment just, because one, they didn't like to work. COVID like made that just explode. And so everybody got used to just sitting, at home, drawing a check. And so, and listening to business, we found out that people were drawing unemployment. You apply one time, you didn't have to show up for the interview. You didn't have to call and say you couldn't be there, and then they met the requirements. We changed that, and this was something that came out of our Small Business Commission, where you have to apply 3 times, then provide evidence to the Department of Labor you're actually looking for a job. And the idea is that you're able-bodied, can get to work.
Right.
Like,
Quit That's good.
drawing a check.
Imagine
and so,
that.
because what's happened is unemployment numbers are low. Well, yeah, because, they've dropped off the unemployment roll, and they're just sitting there.
Right.
And so, we want to get that population, which is a lot, off of government dependence and back working, because that's what made America, America, right?
Exactly.
I'm so
I'm
glad
with
you
you.
said that, because
Yeah.
when Kay Ivey says that unemployment's at a record low, I'm like, it's kind of like you have 6 felonies. It's true, but there's a whole
lot of
backstory to it.
technicality. What is the
It
other
kills me.
group? What are they called? It's not working, but there's the unemployment rate, and then there's the jobless rate. Is that it? Is it the jobless rate?
No, that's not what you're looking for. My mind just
It's a
went
different
blank.
category. I can never remember. It's one of those things that doesn't register.
Yeah,
So
I'll text you in a minute.
But the people who
Yeah, I
just
can
aren't
picture
even
it. I can picture it
people
like
who aren't
that.
trying to work. How's that?
Yeah.
The losers. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're so judgmental.
I mean,
That's usually my role.
I can't believe I said that.
I know.
But that's what I'm like, it feels good to do a job.
It
Like, we were
does.
made
Yeah.
to work. We were made to
Amen.
create and do something. And I'm like, it's like I watch it with my kids when they accomplish something. And so I think it was a mental health. Wait, where'd our camera go?
They're all here.
They're working.
So fancy. I'm not seeing anything.
Have you been here the whole time?
I have, but I haven't looked that way.
Straight in front of us.
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay. Got it.
I've been really engaged
good.
in the conversation.
Okay. Explains a lot.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think mental health is better when people work and you have something that gets you up in the morning, gets you going. That's
right.
what I was thinking.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's
Will, we want to give you the last word. I do want to thank you for being with us. Allison will talk for 2 or 3 more
I
hours.
know.
So
We didn't get to
anything
play
you
my
want to say
game either.
last?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been very fortunate in Alabama. We because we got people back to work safely, our economy is flourished. We've been very blessed. We had record growth in ETF, record growth in the general fund, and there's a lot of people and businesses that are moving to our state because we have low taxes, we have a great quality of life,
Right.
we're a conservative state. And what's interesting, those people that are moving here, they're conservatives and they're sick of what's going on in their state and they're fleeing these other states. I mean, just in Gunnersville, there's people moving from Colorado, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, right?
So they're not going to ruin it when they get here. They're,
Right. I
they're
mean, so
solid.
there's,
Okay.
at least
Feel
the ones
good
I've
about
met
that.
seem to be pretty good conservative. They like our values. So, I message people in Alabama. I'm bullish on Alabama and feel good about our future, but there's real problems we've got to solve to continue to be the best state. And that's my goal. I mean, and is just to continue to work with everybody. And I want to make sure everybody knows this, right? People expect, since I'm in, politics, that I, have an answer for everything. I don't, right? It's not possible. So, we want to hear from people of Alabama. What are the best ideas and solutions? But I promise you this, if you call our office, you'll get a call back. If you come up with an idea, we'll run it down and see if it's going to make our state better. And that's why I'm doing it. And then, and then I'll pass the torch to somebody else, maybe Amy Beth or Allison, or get Scott back involved. And, because I
forbid.
think,
Maybe Amy Beth.
but, yeah, absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, we want to hear everybody's ideas, your listeners out there, and what we can do to improve our state. And I promise you this, if you got a good idea, we'll, try to make it reality.
Right. Very good. Thank
Yeah.
you, Amy
Makes you
Beth.
want to say Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much
We need
potential.
to play
We're
that
like
song.
the most conservative. We just need to find the.
We just need to do what
to
we keep
do what
saying
we
we're
say.
for.
Right.
That's right.
If we did what we said we were going to do, we would be so good.
Very good. Amen.
true.
Don't say anything
Yeah.
else. I agree with you. Finally.
Amen.
Fantastic. Well, that's all for us. We appreciate Will Ainsworth, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Alabama, being with us. Amy Beth, thank you for being on. Allison,
Are you sure?
thank
No,
you.
done.
Even thank you for being on. And signing off for me, Scott Beeson. Y'all have a great week and see y'all.